Me. Hello, everybody. I'm gonna do a quick reading today. For some reason, I've been feeling some like breakup energy. So I don't know if anybody's going through a breakup right now. If you are, my apologies. I know that like really sucks. Okay, especially if you don't have your own place, your own bank account, your own set of friends. You know what I mean? If your lives are just enmeshed, right? Sometimes it's hard to imagine a life where you're not doing that with that particular partner. That doesn't mean you're not a good partner. It doesn't even mean that they're not a good partner. Maybe it's just they're not the right partner for you, right? Funny, but yeah, funny how that works sometimes, right? Um, you ever look back at relationships and be like, oh man, they were the worst, blah, blah, and then you have a couple other relationships and you're like, well, that one wasn't exactly so bad. Maybe we just didn't get along, right? And then there's the ones who probably wouldn't get along with anybody because they're just demons, right? Yeah, mum's the word. So I feel like for some of you, you might have stopped wanting to save this relationship, converse about this relationship, going to therapy, blah, 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 all of those things where you're just like, nah, I think I'm just gonna, whatever. So yeah, listen to receive. So yeah, as you're maybe spending time quietly, in meditation over this event, okay, listen to receive the advice. Listen to receive what are the next steps. And you're going to hear this through your own intuition. If you didn't have your own separate banking account or checking account, your intuition's probably going to be like, yep, that's probably something I need to do. Don't ignore that. Okay. Or maybe it's just you need to get it switched over. Whatever it is. Okay. La Puerta. Yeah, maybe you showed somebody the door, right? What's Beyonce said? In a box, down the hall by the door. La la la, irreplaceable. Don't be thinking, right? Um, there it went. To the left, to the left. All your little things in a box to the left, right? Yeah, so it could be a situation where you're actually living with this person and you guys have to yeah, not live with each other. And sometimes, living with each other is so much worse than just dating the person, right? Like you really get to know somebody. Anyway, so you could say it has its advantages and disadvantages. Maybe it's showing you that you were going to be okay all along, that you didn't maybe need that extra voice, right? Especially if that voice is not being supportive, is not being, a partner, a spouse, somebody who's supposed to be your cheerleader, right? Um you know, if anyone was going to cheer for you in the crowd, shouldn't it be that person? Right? That you're in a relationship, like in a serious, we're not even talking platonic here, we're talking about in a serious, supposed to be romantic relationship. Shouldn't that person be the person that's cheering for you the loudest? Right? Um, a lady I used to work with did some competitions. I don't know if she still competes or not, but anyway, she had shared some of the videos and showing her routine and stuff. And you can hear her husband in the audience yelling her name. And I won't say her name, but he's like, go, like you just like, yeah. So if you're, not getting somebody who's going to show up and yell at your competition in support, like it was the fucking Olympics. Do you know what I mean? And you know how at the Olympics and all those competitions, all those other competitors on the side, even the other teams are like cheering for people. Okay. So they know how hard it is. They know how much effort put into it, right? And somebody who's literally beside you walking those steps is going to understand that. Somebody who's just there for, you being a convenience or something, maybe they're not that deep into it, right? So, something for you to decide. And, I also was getting this message yesterday, and I will just say this because I'm not here to encourage anybody to do one thing or another. Okay. I'm just here to give you the message and say, this is energy. But the thing is, some breaks are not permanent. right? When we break a bone, it can heal up, right? So it kind of depends on what kind of repair, right? If you're like, look, the therapy is not working, the whatever is not working, the date nights aren't working, like maybe we just need a break, right? And maybe for some of you that means, dating other people. You're gonna have to all, decide and come to those terms, right? That's nothing that somebody on YouTube or anybody else, be it a pastor, your parents, your sister's best friend, everybody that wants you to say, oh, but you're such a cute couple. La, 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 la. Okay, but are you happy? Are you happy? Is there any happiness there? Just saying. Okay. Ace of Wands, yeah, passion. Sometimes we have passion for people, sometimes that wanes. That is called limerence, right? They say about after a year, right, that the limerence kind of goes away, and now you're like kind of stuck with the real person, right? Like I was watching this movie clip of the movie Singles, and she's like calling to her like crush, this guy that she's kind of, like wants to have a thing with, right? And she says his name. She says, over the phone, right? This is like the 90s, right? She actually picks up the phone to like use it to call somebody like Alexander Graham Bell did back in the day when he invented the telephone, or whoever they say really invented it. But I mean, they are crediting Alexander Graham Bell as of this publication of this tarot video for anybody out there, okay, who wants to play Jeopardy today. So, anyway, yeah, picked up the phone. She's like, hey baby, like I'm burning for you, right? And the guy on the other line was not the intended recipient. It was like his roommate or something. He was like, he's like, lady, he's not here, but I'll be right over. Right? Like she wanted to have that passion, that romance, that flame, but the dude was not on the other end of the line. He was nowhere to be found. Okay? Does that mean she needs to throw that passion in the trash? No. Maybe she needs to redirect it a little while. Right? If you watch that movie, you'll get it, right? Or if you already know the movie. Okay. So the movie Singles, which I was reminded on Facebook today because some page posted about it, and it was very popular back in my day because the soundtrack that came out accompanying the movie was amazing. Most people had heard the soundtrack before they ever watched the movie. Um, so yeah, it was a good one. And especially those of us who were like young enough at the time, like we didn't have cars or like lived out of town, like we couldn't just like hop over to the movie theater, right? So, like you'd hear the songs on the radio and stuff, and then maybe like a year or two, 3 years later, however old you are, you've watched the movie and you're like, oh my God, this is like adult themes. This is like grown-ups living in their own apartments and dating in Seattle. All right. Um, which I've actually been to Seattle. I went with a couple girlfriends one time when we had a little bit of time off work. Um, so again, if you're going through like a breakup, hopefully not a breakdown, right? Maybe you just need like a little girls trip. Maybe you need, just be around a little bit different energy. And it's not, say to escape your life. It's just for a change of pace. Oh, well, Rottweiler TV, you're gonna get blocked today, honey, aren't you? See, this is why I don't understand why the people that want to say, talk about demons in the chat, and it's like, go start your own channel like frickin' Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. I'm sure you'll get tons and tons of views. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have time to talk about demons that don't exist in this building right now. You know what I mean? What we're talking about is real life situations between people and humans. All right. I don't have time for demon worship. Okay. Just the same as I don't turn political figures into gods either. So, if you're looking for that here, you're gonna have to go somewhere else. I don't care who you are. I really don't. Again, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Okay. So, what's next? Yeah, Three of Cups, like I said. looking for somebody to celebrate with, maybe, especially if you are a feminine, getting into your feminine energy. If you're a dude, what do dudes do when they get together? Oh, maybe watch some sports, go fishing, what I mean? Something that's an activity that doesn't center around, obtaining the opposite sex, right? So yeah, you know, we all learn from our experiences, right? Just as Rottweiler TV down there learned that I won't tolerate messages like that which they were leaving in the chat. It's not cool, man, right? So I'm breaking up with you, man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna go have a chill mode and chill moment with my peeps, right? That aren't into whatever demonic crap that was. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you wanna start throwing the holy water around, praising Jesus' name, I'm sure there's some Catholics out there that would be glad for you to join the priesthood, because we are having a major shortage, because priests have to be celibate. Yeah. Not like these other churches where you can just go and do whatever whenever, these Catholics, they want to send you this place. They don't want you to have interruptions with your families. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit different on that side. If you can what do they say? Can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Yeah. Where's that Hell's Kitchen at? New York? Six of Swords wanted to come out in reverse, so this person may not want you to leave, right? But you might be like, look, I need a separation regardless. Um, and and I know there's all different levels of relationships and things of that nature. And I don't know if it really ever changes like when as you age, because to me, whenever I've gone through a breakup, I still feel like that, 13, 14, 15-year-old me, like from junior high, high school, of that feeling of rejection, that feeling of I didn't make it work, that feeling of failure, that feeling of, ugh, is anybody gonna ever love the real me type thing, right? Um, I don't know that that necessarily changes as you get older, right? When you're going through that. So if that's something you're going through, it's kind of like that thing when, what did that song? Oh, and they called it puppy love. Oh, and then people dismiss it and they'll be like, well, maybe it was just limerence. Maybe you were just attracted, maybe it was just this, maybe it was that. Well, or maybe you actually did see a future and maybe it was actually painful for you to have to go through the thought process of separating from, that dream that we thought was going to work for us. Okay? All right. Yeah. Let's get another card here. And as the weekend is approaching, somebody says they're just watching from the hospital. Oh my goodness. Well, I have some healing vibes to send you. How about that in Canada for your back surgery? Um, you know, what is the recovery time like on that? Hierophant, yeah. So, as you're recovering, maybe this is a time to dive into some spiritual practice. Maybe you're not able to get around as much as you are used to, right? Maybe now's the time to do some Bible study or study whatever book it is that you like. I think it's next week or after the weekend, Rosh Hashanah starts. So, for Judaism, there might be some people, because I think that's celebrating the Jewish New Year. There might be some significant passages and things of that nature, so that is personally something that I would lean into. I feel like a lot of folks that have been in recovery turn to different forms of art therapy as well. But reading and or just or listening to audiobooks, I feel like is something that we can all do and appreciate. And does it have to be, reading the Bible? No. Maybe it's a, oh yeah, I heard about that author. I never got around to, well, maybe now you have the time, right? So, just take it with a grain of salt of it's not it's not something to meant to really irritate you, but it's meant to grow you into the pearl that you were meant to be. Okay? And if somebody else couldn't see that, I am really sorry. They kind of suck. Okay? And we all find out, yeah, in due time. Knight of Pentacles, yeah, sowing the seeds of love. You ever hear that song? So, like, what's the goal, right? If you read about celebrities and, other historical figures and things, folks who have had popularity or things that have become popular over the years, you will know that those folks have their own struggles, right? Um, isn't it that well, yeah, there's a lot of celebrities that, maybe don't talk to their family or have had, severe medical issues. Elizabeth Taylor was married how many times? Well, back in the day, you had to get married, right? Because you couldn't just be having sex. Oh my God, right? It could be one of those things too, where it's like, you thought this was what you were supposed to do, like the whole good on paper thing. I feel like that's a huge thing, especially for folks who are goal oriented, okay? Because they say, oh, make a list of the things that you want in a person and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, well, there's want and then there's need, right? Yeah, maybe you're in recovery from surgery right now. Yeah, maybe you want to go out running, but maybe you need to do your physical therapy before you, right? Go to that next step. So, you know, joyous occasions, I feel like is what you're looking forward to. Yeah. This is so funny. These wanting to come out in reverse. Seven Pentacles. So, collective, I feel like maybe whoever this person is that you were thinking about a breakup with is somebody who maybe didn't see what you had working, didn't see maybe what you had going, and that's why it was coming out in reverse. And then that's why you felt stalled and you're like, well, if the person that's like literally around me, 24/7 can't see this, who else is going to see it, right? But the reality is sometimes um you know it's creating those separate workspaces, right? No matter what. Betty Davis, who I admire, her acting, I've watched a lot of her movies, and she is an actor who played a lot of roles where she was not liked. Um, and she was willing to do that. You know what I mean? And one of her famous quotes was, for her, it was about the work. And whenever she came back to the work, uh, it worked out for her. Um, versus, putting effort into, her first marriage and her second marriage. And then she didn't really talk too kindly about her children either. Talk about standing and surviving. But maybe, and the older I get, the more I think about these things too. It's like, well, maybe, she had a point about what she was saying, about her marriages and her kids, versus what she felt her purpose was. Some people think their kids are their only purpose. And you could say that in a way, but also in a way that is what I would consider limiting beliefs, right? Um, Especially when you think about it, well, let's take somebody who people love to hate on, like Elon Musk. Okay. Elon, well, gobs and gobs of money. He's like, some Dr. Evil character, except with way better hair, right? You know, oh, Elon's mom. Okay. Like she said, her job was raising kids. Did they have the means necessary to be able to do that so she didn't have to work outside the home? I believe so. Um, but like, don't discount her influence, right? Um, Look at all the things Elon's doing. I think she also recognized that Elon had this kind of potential to encourage him in these directions, right? Not everybody has that ability to assess and see these things, right? Um, maybe in some other world, Elon's mom is like HR director at Tesla. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and this is why and maybe as because a lot of people know me as a registered Democrat and they think, oh well, that means you're just for abortions and blah blah blah, you don't really care about women. Well, I care about giving women options and choices, right? And that includes women who want to be married, women who want to have kids, women who want to have careers, women who whatever. uh that's their choice too, right? I'm not here going down to Ho Alley saying, stop, stop, hoes, just stop. I mean, personally, I see a lot of help wanted signs other places in town. So, I don't worry about that too much, but that's somebody else's right to do that. I might not agree with it, but that's their right to do that. Okay. So the same with you making the separation. Somebody might not want to see you separating, but that's still your right to do it. Okay. Ah. But yeah, feminism is actually about women having the right to choose, right? Um, I saw a little Facebook clip video. The lady asked a man, she was like, oh, can you name a recent piece of legislation which removed rights from men? So yeah, that's why I'm a feminist. Equal rights amendment now, right? Ten of Swords. Um, Collective, I have a feeling for some of you this break most definitely will be permanent just because you're not in the mood. Um, you're like, yeah, I'm leaving, I'm moving out, or they're moving out, or whatever. And for you, it's a dead and gone over type situation where it's like, you know, maybe we'll see each other at the grocery store, you know. But right now, that's all there is. And yeah, I feel like for some of you, you might even literally be exhausted, like literally be exhausted. Blue in the face type thing, where it's like, yeah, you're just like, I don't get into this. I don't want this. This isn't what I was looking for. And guess what? Good job. You recognize it now. Because a lot of people, they will count on you debating the sunk cost, right? And saying, oh, well, you've already invested this much time. What if you invest one more, right? That's the gambler's dilemma, right? Well, I already put $5 in the machine. I didn't win anything. Well, I'm sure on the second $5, surely it's the third $5, and then all of a sudden you got all your fives in here, and then your whole fucking hand's gone. You gotta leave yourself something to open up the fucking door. This Cancer card just wants to flip over. Five of Pentacles. So somebody might have that in their chart. Eight of Wands. Yeah, I feel like for some of you, this could be happening very quickly as well. It's like, you're like, if I'm going to be alone, let me be alone. Some people get into relationships and it's like, and I mean, legally speaking, go through marriage, buy the whole house together, la, 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 la. And then you're living these separate lives and you're like, well, what did I do that for? You know? Because a lot of you collective, and if you're anything like me and do believe in feminism and independent rights for all, right? You know that people can be self-reliant, right? How many single moms do you know out there, or single dads? And don't you think they're probably better off? Just saying. Yeah, because some of you are like, yeah, because I know. Oh my God. One of my girlfriends, she posted about her ex. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it because, ooh boy, instead of paying her child support, yeah, that money went elsewhere in it. And it's like, really? It's like you paid for that, but anyway, right? Lord have mercy. Yeah. Like stick to paying the child support, pal. But some people, that's what I'm saying. It's just like one of my exes, like he got a piece of mail in the mail, and I could tell it was like important, and it was probably regarding his child support and stuff. And I was like, I made sure, because he was getting mail at my house while he was living here, and I was like, hey, I'm like, did you open that? He's like, no. I'm like, aren't you gonna? I'm like, don't you want to see what's in there? He's like, well, I know I'm behind. I'm like, well, don't you need to do something about that? It's like, well, the state will take care of it. I was like, what? Like, he thought since he wasn't paying, the state would, like, hand out some money to his child support to the recipients. That's what he verbally said. Whether or not he truly believed that or actually understood that to be, false, right? But that's what he was claiming as the reason why he just couldn't open that piece of mail. And I thought, wow. You know what I mean? When the writing is on the wall, it's on the wall. This ain't Michael Jackson when it's off the wall, motherfucker. So yeah, I feel like I'm reading this energy, right? Where somebody's kind of on that, yeah, I'm getting that song, Scrubs, no scrubs, TLC. I don't want no scrubs. Scrubs are gonna can't get no love for me, right? Um, Yeah, so I really feel like it is probably like specifically if you're watching this today, more likely a feminine breaking up with a masculine, but there's a lot of times where masculines have to break up with feminines for very similar reasons, right? Where it's like, you know, how did their day go? Right? It helps if you have somebody who actually talks, right? And that could be something too, collective, where it's like, well, they don't want to talk to you, but they sure feel like talking to this person and that person and this person and that person. It's like, oh, I see. You're just too cool to want to talk to the person that you're actually in the relationship with, right? Right? Because it's all about how you look to everybody and how cool you are, right? Oh man. All right. I gotta get some conversation deck cards on this one, I guess. Whew, man. Maybe we'll get maybe we'll get some positive messages out with it. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting. And I was feeling this yesterday and I held off and I'm like, and then I was getting the same message today and I'm like, you know what? I gotta do this video. So if you're watching today for confirmation, yes, yes, you know what I mean. But again, I'm not here to sit here and say, oh, you have to march down there and divorce them tomorrow and blah, 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 blah. Sometimes when you have a little separation, things can work out, but sometimes the separation does need to be permanent, right? And only you know that. I'm not there sitting right next to you, okay? So stop blaming tarot readers for your problems, right? I mean, really. Yeah, invest, right? What was I talking about Betty Davis when, um, she invested into her career, into her work, into a legacy that she could leave, right? A lot of times it's men who think about legacy, and the way I think males are taught to think about legacy is through having children, right? And I think a lot of women feel that way as well. And I'm not saying that can't be a legacy, right? I'm just saying there are other opportunities for people besides that. What about all the people who just can't have kids because that's how God made them that way? You know, like all of a sudden those people are now demonic. You can be like, oh, we'll go out and adopt. Do you even understand what you're saying? And how hard it is to even do that? Why do you think there's people that fly to fucking China and Russia and all these other fucking countries to even get a child to begin with? If it was that fucking easy, right? Okay, so shut the fuck up with your bullshit, okay? People are tired of it. Yeah, I just date around. Yeah, this person collective who you're thinking about, kind of breaking it off with, I feel like they just kind of had you on the line just to like, to be having a girlfriend or to be having a boyfriend or, say, I got a man, oh, I'm fine. I got my woman, right? Um, Here's the thing too. Sometimes they want that there and they actually get married to it. And then later it turns out, what do they call that? A beard or a purse? So the person is attached, and then the other person is like, oh, well, that means I can fool around on the side. Some people do that. I'm really, really sorry if that's you right now hearing this message because trust me, I've been in that situation where I thought I was in a committed relationship and the other person clearly was not. You don't just find all these dating apps, like one of them, I literally catfished him. It was like, and I knew it wasn't a fake profile because it was one of those apps that tells you how like far away the person is. And it was like it said they were like less than how many feet away. And it was like, oh my God. It's like that movie. Whereas like the call is coming from inside the house. Now either that person's a fucking apparition, right? Or they just date around but fail to disclose that when they're supposed to be in a committed fucking relationship. Hi, Bamika. I am doing a reading currently. This is a collective reading, okay? So, but right today, what I'm talking about, this energy is somebody considering or going through a breakup, okay? A physical separation, okay? All right, and somebody's saying, let's have a family. And so you might already have a family collective. That's the thing. It's like, you thought it was going to be better with so and so and blah, blah. Oh, now there's two of us, two of us facing the world together, right? Didn't turn out that way. Instead, it was like, oh, you know, it's like instead they turn into an angry teenager. And you're like, that's not the family I wanted. And they're like, well, that's the family you got. And you're like, well, actually, no, because you're an adult. You're not my child. So I don't have to support you this way. Right? And I'm not talking about people who are on disability. And I'm not talking about people who got their own types of issues. And I'm not talking about blah, blah, blah. Okay? Yeah, you all know what I'm talking about. I could eat you up. Yeah, see, this passion still exists, right? When she calls that guy, she's like, "I'm burning for you," and then it's the other guy, and then it shows in the scene she like hangs up and is like, "Oh my God, like how embarrassing," right? Also reminds me that when oh my God, it's so funny. In the movie with Jamie Lee Curtis and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he plays like this undercover guy. And she's like gets all sexed up, right? And then she does that little striptease thing in the right, but he like can't, and he's like, oh my God, how far is she gonna go? Right? You know what I mean? Again, just because it didn't work with that one doesn't mean it might not work with somebody who does want to eat you up, you know what I mean? And not you know, do whatever else they feel like doing. You know, what's that song? Waiting for a girl like you. Okay. Yeah, I feel like somebody might have been waiting for a while. And now it's like maybe you're going to be back on the market and they're going to be like, "Oh, just saying. Just saying." Yeah. So, collective, yeah, again, family. I feel like for whoever this message is for, family is maybe more important to you than you either realized, or the way that you want to have family is more important than you realized that your partner could wrap their head around. All right. Where you're just like, look, we're not on the same path, you know? So you're like, instead of being on that path together, we're gonna, what they say? Go your own way. Fleetwood Mac, right? Loving you isn't the right thing to do. Okay. Spiritual soul says, I'm in no contact with my person. Yeah. So if you missed the first part of this reading, spiritual soul, you might want to go back and listen to the whole message, because for somebody, this definitely is like a hard cutoff. Like, I feel like they're, separating from this person. That could be a divorce, moving out, blah, blah. For some of you also, I feel like this could be like you're in a no contact situation because things were not lining up, right? And if you go watch that movie Singles, it's like, not, guess what? At the end, not everybody remains single. Okay? I won't spoil it for you, but, there was that person out there that says, you know what? Yeah. Yeah. This looks good to me. Okay? So, yeah. And I feel like collective, once you kind of let go of the illusion of what you thought, right? Versus walking towards what is actually going to happen, right? It's going to start happening so fast and you're going to start feeling so much better. You're gonna feel celebrated because you're celebrating yourself, right? Instead of saying, "Hey, honey, look at what I did," and they ignore you, you're just gonna be like, "Hey, me, look at what I did. Aren't I awesome? Yes." You know what I mean? You'll be feeling like the emperor himself. Okay. So again, that Ace of Wands, Aries energy. Okay. So this might be the little burst, that little boost. Yeah. Especially I don't know, something's going, I don't know when the next Mercury retrograde is, but keep the doors locked on them exes. Yeah, right? Coming back saying, "Oh, I love you, I miss you." You know. What was the one I saw the other day? The guy's like, "Sorry, I ghosted you for 6 months. I lost my charger. What are you doing?" Like, you got a lot of nerve. So yeah. And the thing is, collective, that dude, maybe that dude is the one who realized they made a big mistake and they're trying to come back now, right? But for some of you, that simply is not going to occur. Yeah. But in other ways, it might be like, well, maybe they just need to do a little bit of work on themselves, where you've been doing the work on yourself and nobody been paying attention. But you're like, well, no, actually, I'm not like this. I'm actually like this. And now you're starting to speak up. It's like it's starting to get noticed, and it's like they can't ignore it anymore. Right? It's like they have to give you some fucking credit. You know, this just isn't doing it anymore, right? It's like, okay. So, all right. Yeah. So there's also another channel. It's a guy creator. For those of you that prefer male creators out there, I think his channel is called No Limit Being. He's a little bit younger than I am, and he does some motivational stuff, and sometimes talks about, um, being no contact with people and things of that nature too. I don't know why that just came up, but well, if you've ever taken some mathematics courses like I have, you understand what limits are. Um, and I think that's part of the thing here is that collective, this person was looking at you in a limited sense, and you don't see yourself that way. And so now that you're seeing yourself in a different way, it's like, yeah, you know, um, who knows, right? Okay. That's what I was thinking about, like, like when they retire your favorite lipstick or whatever it is, it's like, you gotta find a new one, right? It's not gonna be the same as the old lipstick, but, um, we all have to move forward, right? So sometimes these breakups aren't, as devastating on the other side, right? So if you can, like, year-old self, your 20-year-old self, your 25-year-old self, right? When you're going through some devastating breakup time, right? And say, hey, remember that time when you were like super upset? Well, guess what? That's not going to last forever. It may literally feel like it's going to, right? The whole world's crashing in, right? All of those things. That doesn't stop what your vision for yourself is. And somebody who wanted that to stop, it's like, is that really your person? That's what I'm saying. There might be people here in the Situation Collective where they didn't see your growth. Now they're starting to see it, but like you've already walked away, right? Or already made, kind of plans. And it's like, well, they can either step up to the plate or it's bedtime for Bonzo, like what are you gonna do? You can't wait around forever. So, um, yes. So thank you all in the chat. It looks like my device is dying down, even though I have it plugged into this extra little thingamabobber. So I did go a little long on the reading today, but please do, maybe meditate on your situation a little bit. Go back, watch the beginning of the video as well if this is resonating with you. Until next time, please do manifest wisely. Bye bye.